Guys, in this tutorial today, I want to show you how you can use pivot tables to summarize your data. From a very large data set like this, I want to show you how you can use it maybe to summarize your data in terms of the region, and then you can look at each and every region, how much in electricity capacity megawatts did each and every region produce. And we can even narrow down to now specific countries. Now, each and every country, how much did each and every country produce in terms of the electricity capacity in megawatts? And we may even go further to summarize it in terms of years. Like, for example, we may want to see how much in electricity in terms of megawatts did the country Algeria produce in only 2000, in the year 2000 only. Yes, and we may also come to narrow it down to now the type of electricity where it is renewable or non-renewable energy source. Now, this tutorial is divided into three parts. The first part is to show how to create a pivot table, how to create a pivot table. The second one is how to format a pivot table and how to filter a pivot table. And the last one is going to be how to perform calculations in your pivot table. Now let us start with the very first step, which is how to create a pivot table. Now, you create a pivot table either from data which is outside your worksheet or data which is within your worksheet. Now we want to create this pivot table from data which is within our worksheet, and our worksheet in this case is the renewable energy. Now the first thing, it is normally very easy to create a pivot table from a table. Yes, you can create it from a range, but when you create it from a table, it's going to make your work very easy. Now, the first step is to convert this data into a table. Now just click into where within that table, no, within that range, then come to where we have the insert tab. Then click on the table, you can see table. You can also use the keyboard shortcut Control T. Then just click on that. Then a window like this is opening. It is giving you where or the range of the table from where that table has to be created, and it is also showing that my table has headers. If that is the case, I'm going to click OK, and you can see I have already created a table. You can come to where we have the table design. Table design, under the table styles, we may just decide to change the kind of table style we have. I just want this one where we have the white and black. I'm going to click on that. Then I have already created my table. Now step 2 is to create my pivot table. Remember, this is a table. Now I want to create my pivot table. Now to create a pivot table, I'm going to click again into that table that I have created. Again, come to where we have the insert tab. Now the first option under the insert tab is where we have the pivot table. Click on the drop down arrow. The first option is to create from a table or a range. The second one is to create from external data source. Now, because we are creating from the same worksheet, I'm going to create from table stroke range. I click on that. Then my table does not have a name. It has been named table number 3. Now I'm not going to give it a name. I'm just going to proceed like that. And then the next thing that I'm being asked, do I want to create this pivot table on a new worksheet or on existing worksheet? When I say it is going to be created on an existing worksheet, I simply mean it is going to be created just beside where my table and my data is. I want it to be created on a new worksheet, and I do not want to add this data to the data model. If I wanted to add it to a data model, I would click or I would check this box. Now I'm just going to click on OK. Then you can see here I have my pivot table fields, and under my pivot table fields you can see I have the region, the country. These are all the fields that I had, and when you go back to my renewable energy table, you are going to see that these were just the table headers. These are name of columns for various columns on that table. Now we have these are the fields. Now at the top here, at the topmost corner, where you can see my cursor, I have a placeholder. It is just showing me that this is where my table is going to be placed. Now the first thing I want to summarize, I want to summarize the electricity capacity in terms of megawatts per region. I want to see how much in capacity megawatts did each and every region contribute. By, by region, I mean Africa, Asia, North America, yes, something like that, Europe. Now, the first thing at the bottom here, you can see we have four fields. The first one is the filters field. The second one is the columns field. The third one is the rows field. And the last one is the values field. Now, anything that is in text form is going to come to automatically to the rows field. Now, if I'm just going to check on the rows field or on the region, you can see the region has been placed under the rows field. And when you come to where we had a placeholder for the pivot table, you can see the rows field has been placed, and under the region you can see we have Africa, Asia, Eurasia, Europe, Middle East, North America, Oceania, and South and Central America. Now the second thing that I want to do, I want to come where I have the electricity capacity in terms of megawatts. Anything that is in form of numerical value, it's going to be automatically placed under the values. So if I'm just check on that, you can see it has been placed under the values, and again it has been summarized here. So it is very easy to see that the total electricity capacity in terms of megawatts generated by the individual regions. For example, Africa, you can see this is what was generated. And remember, we had two types of energy. We have the renewable and non-renewable. We further want to break down these figures into either renewable or non-renewable. We want to see how much in electricity capacity in terms of megawatts did Africa produce for renewable and for the non-renewable. Again, for us to do that, we are going to click on where we have the renewable and non-renewable. You can see it has been placed under the rows field. We said that anything in form of a text is going to be placed under the rows field. Now we have already completed creating our pivot table. Now what we are doing now is to customize our pivot table. Now to do this, we want to move the renewable and non-renewable to columns field. So I'm just going to click on the drop down arrow under the renewable and non-renewable. Then I'm going to move it to the column labels. Just click on that. Then you can see it has come to the columns level. Now you can now see we have non-renewable energy for Africa and the renewable for Africa. Then we have the grand total. That is the first part. The second part under the customizing this pivot table now, you can see we cannot see these values very well. We want to do what we call number formatting. We want to add a comma separator so that we can easily see them. To add a comma separator or just to perform any kind of number formatting on a pivot table, you click into the pivot table, any cell within that pivot table, you right click on your keyboard, then you can see we have number formatting, it is number 3. You click on number formatting, then I'm just going to click on number, then you can see the decimal places, it is going to remain 2. Then we have the box which is showing us use 1000 separators, comma. Yes, that is what I want. Then I'm going to click OK. Now you can see we can easily see, for example, for Africa, the total electricity capacity produced for non-renewable, it was 2,394,164.88, and you can see for each and every region and for each and every field, that is what we have. Now, when we come to, and we could do more and more, we could do more and more. Maybe the next thing that we want to look at now, the next thing we want to look at so that I can also show you what comes to the filters field and how we can use the filters field now to filter and hide what we do not want to see and show what we want to see. Now remember, this electricity generation is in terms of various technologies. I want to use the main technology. Which technology was used to generate this electricity for each and every region? Now I'm going to take my main technology and place it under the filter. I just want to filter. When you place the main technology under the filters field and you come at the top here, you can see we have the main technology and then we have a drop down arrow. That drop down arrow is just a filter button. When you click into it, you can see these are all the main technology options that were there. For example, we had bioenergy, fossil fuels, geothermal energy, hydropower, and all others. Now let us say that I only want to show the electricity capacity in terms of megawatts per region, but only that generation that was through fossil fuel. What I'm going to do, I'm going to click on the fossil fuel. That is the only thing I want to see. Then I'm going to click on OK. And you can see I no longer have the renewable energy because fossil fuel is purely non-renewable. And you can see for Africa, these are what I have. If I want to do away with it, I will just come back here and clear the filters. And to clear the filters, I'm just going to click on all, select all, then OK. Let's say that I want something else. Maybe I do not just want to choose one, I want to choose several. You are going to click on select multiple items. Then I want bioenergy, fossil fuel, nuclear, and lastly, I want wind energy. Then I'm going to click on OK. You can see how everything has changed. Now for the non-renewable energy, this is what we have. For renewable energy, this is what we have. Again, if I want to do away with the filters, I'll just come back here to where we have all and check it. Then everything is going to be where it's supposed to be. Now, what I want to do next, I want to create individual or separate worksheets where I can show reports for each and every type of main technology. For example, what I want the electricity generation for bioenergy to be on its own report, for the fossil fuels to be on its own report, up to the last one where we have the wind energy. What I'm going to do, I'm going to uncheck that, then check it again. I'm going to click on OK. Then the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to click on Pivot Table, Analyze tab. After the Pivot Table Analyze tab, I'm going to come up to where I have the Pivot Table. Under the Pivot Table, you can see we have that drop down arrow. I'm going to click on that. Then I have to look for where we have the options. I'm going to click on Options. Then I want to show report filter pages. I'm going to click on Show Report Filter Pages. Then a confirmation is just going to be made. I want the main technology. And by doing that, you can see now I have all the individual main technology. For example, for bioenergy, you can see for bioenergy, it has been broken down in terms of the year and in terms of the region. You can see, for example, Africa region for the bioenergy, it only produced this 22,373.6 terms of megawatts. When I come to the fossil fuels, these are non-renewable, and you can see again, Africa produced 2,315,012.28 megawatts. You can see Asia produced this amount, and from this summary, you can see that Asia was the biggest producer, or the largest producer. When we come to the geothermal energy, you can again see what Africa produced, what Asia produced, and what other regions also produced. When you come to hydropower, it is still the same thing. Now, let me come back here and just do away with those. Clear our filters. Now guys, the next thing that I want to do, let me come here and remove this one. The next thing that I want to do, I want to multiply. Maybe I have been told that I'm supposed to multiply the sum of electricity capacity in terms of megawatts by 1.5. Maybe because that is the price that is going to be paid. And I have to get that. Maybe I have to multiply it. Let us just assume that 1.5 is the price per electricity capacity in terms of megawatts. Now, how am I going to do this? Yes, how am I going to do this? Doing that is quite easy. I'm just going to create another column, and by creating another column, maybe I'm going to say equal sign, that one times 1.5. Let us see what happens when we do that. Again, number formatting or format cells, number, comma separator, then okay. That has been done wonderfully well, but now let us come back to our pivot table fields and see if we now change the row labels. Are we still going to have the same thing? Let us remove the row labels. In the place of row labels, let us put country, and you can see this thing has not worked. Now that is where we are going to come with calculations in the pivot tables. This is where we are going to introduce what we call the calculated fields and items. And for this particular case, we are going to use what we call the calculated fields. We want to calculate it in such a way that even if we are going to change the row labels, we replace the region with the country, this particular calculation is going to extend downwards. Let me delete that. Come back here, remove the country, replace it with the region. Now what I'm going to do, what you are going to do when you want to do calculated fields, you click into any cell within that pivot table. When you click into any cell within the pivot table, come to where we have the pivot table analyze. Then under the calculations group, the first option is fields, items, and sets. This is what we want. So I'm going to click on that. Then the first option is calculated field. That is what I want. Now I have something like this. What I want, I'm going to say that this is the price per unit megawatts. Then this is where we have the formula. We are going to place our formula here. Then I'm going to look for the fields. Under the fields, I have the electricity capacity in terms of megawatts. Yes, it is here. So I'm going to click on that, insert. Then I'm going to click on times, now 1.5. Add, okay. You can see it has already been added. Now let us go back and see if we now change the field under the rows field. Let us replace it with the country, and you can see everything has now worked very, very well.